Hey, Utah Mammoth fans, Tusks up, and welcome into today's Utah Mammoth Daily. The wait is finally over. We had the official 23-man roster for this season come out yesterday, and while most of the names were expected, there are some fascinating wrinkles thanks to a couple of key injuries and some huge preseason performances. Today, I'll be breaking down who made it, who didn't, and what it all says about how the Mammoth plan to start this season. So let's start. The roster is in. No more guessing games. No more predictions, whether they were right or wrong. Mostly wrong from me, but let's get into it. The Utah Mammoth's opening night roster is official, and this one feels like a statement. Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, and Dylan Gunther headline a forward group that's young, skilled, and ready to prove that last year's flashes weren't a fluke. New addition J.J. Peterka slots perfectly into that top six, giving Utah a legitimate secondary scoring threat that's been missing since the franchise was in Arizona. But the most interesting thing, the roster blends patience with readiness. You can feel that balance. 14 forwards, 8 defensemen, 2 goalies. With the team leaning on experience while still giving young players a chance to grow. And I think I miscounted there. I think it's 13 forwards, 8 defensemen, and 2 goalies. Math is hard for me, but that's not the point. On defense, Mikhail Sergachev anchors what's arguably the deepest blue line this franchise has ever had. He's flanked by steady veterans like John Marino, Sean Dursey, and Nate Schmidt. If those, aforementioned two can stay healthy, that'd be fantastic. And there's a new name in there that fans should really be excited about. That is the most complete opening lineup Utah has ever fielded, and I think more complete than anything Arizona ever fielded, really. And it's built to compete right now. So let's talk about the dominoes that made this roster possible. With Spicy Tuna and Alexander Kerfoot both starting the season on injured reserve, 2 different ones, but still, Utah suddenly had 2 roster spots available, and those openings went to 2 players who earned it during the offseason and preseason. First, Andrew Agazzino. He has been around the block. He is a veteran guy, a veteran presence who's carved out an NHL life by doing the little things right. He led the AHL group in energy and consistency all camp, and now he gets a chance to carry that into the real NHL games. And then there's Dmitry Simashev, easily one of the stories of camp. The young defenseman forced his way into the conversation with poise, confidence, and a maturity level that belies his age. For a 2023 first-rounder to make the jump this early says a lot, both about his development and how much the Mammoth believe in him long-term. Both guys got here through hard work and circumstances, and sometimes that's exactly what good teams need to find spark early in the year. And I think Dmitry Simashev showed, especially in the preseason, his maturity. It looked like he was never rushed. It looked like he never panicked, and he usually made the right pass. So the future is pretty bright with Dmitry Simashev up there. Oh, and by the way, he's living with Mikhail Sergachev too. And so the 2 Russians get to bunk up together. And so the learning curve is not going to be as steep for Simashev as it might have been were Sergei not here. So that's really cool. Now let's move on to my missed call. And it's time for a little accountability too, because I'll own this one. I genuinely thought that Tidge Aginla was going to make the opening night roster. I really did. I thought he was going to show up and show out during camps and in the preseason games. And he kind of did a little bit early on in preseason, but then he got a couple of knocks, and so he wasn't able to suit up for a couple of the games, and I think that really put the nail in the coffin to send him back down to juniors. So the kid did do most things right. His preseason play was energetic, fearless, and he was a little bit creative. He made plays in traffic, showed NHL levels instincts, and didn't look out of place against veteran competition. He didn't even back down when he was when people were attempting to bully him a little bit. But when you look at the final roster construction, it makes sense why he's not there yet. The forward group is just a little bit too crowded right now, and there's no reason to rush him into a 4th-line role when he can dominate top-line minutes elsewhere down in juniors. If we're being honest, this isn't a setback, it's just a delay. Tidge is absolutely part of this team's future, and the fact that he was even in the conversation this late into the game tells you how high the organization's confidence in him is. So I'm going to take the L on this one, but I still think we'll be seeing Tidge back in a Mammoth sweater sooner rather than later. and I would imagine maybe even this season. Maybe. Just think on that. Just simmer on that for a little bit. We'll put that in the stew and set it on simmer. All right, and the mix. Are the Mammoth too cautious, or are they being just right with the roster construction? So with the final 23 locked in, the question is this. Did Utah play it too safe, or did they get it just right? Honestly, I think they got it mostly right. Because of my pride, I'm going to say they missed with not having Tidge on the final lineup, but that's just my pride. You've got veterans like Keller, Schmidt, and Tanev to steady the ship, young firepower with Cooley, Gunther, and Peterka, and now an infusion of hungry, earned energy from guys like Agazino and Simashev. This is a balanced roster and one that's not built on hype, but on intentional growth. The coaching staff didn't chase flash, they rewarded readiness. Could Utah have rolled the dice on more youth? Sure, I would have loved to have seen that. But this group feels like a playoff caliber blend of stability and upside. The Mammoth aren't just learning to compete anymore. They're building the kind of structure that wins over 82 games. So cautious? Maybe a little bit. But in this case, cautious looks smart. And that's your Utah Mammoth Daily for today. The opening night roster is set. The doors opened for a couple of well-deserving players, and the Mammoth look deeper and more confident than ever. I'll be keeping a close eye on how this mix gels, especially early on, because if the chemistry hits fast, this team could surprise a lot of people, but not me. I expect a 100-point season and playoffs. That's my expectation. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Tusks up.